Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Baba Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Bonachari Jamunatira Bonachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Bonachari Jamunatira Bonachari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Krishna
Parivrajagacharya Stotara Sat Shishimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Stotara Sat Shishimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Jagahu Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinatha Shama Kundagara Kundago Givardo Govardhana Ki Jai, Shri Shri Navadam Ki Jai, Shri Navadam Ki Jai, Shri Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Shri Shri Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Shama Veda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaivam narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jaya mudirayat nasta prayeshu abharyeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shlokir bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Reading from the Shrimad-Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 20th chapter. What's the verse?
7 and 8.
7 and 8. Evam Ugrishravaha Prisa Rishibir Naimeshayanai Bhagavati Arpita Jatmas Tan Aha Shruyatam Iti Evam Ugrishrayava Prisa Rishibir Namashayanai Bhagavati Arpati Atmas Tanaha Shrutadam Iti Eva Mugra Sharava Posta Rishibir Namashayanaha Bhagavati Arpati Atmas Tanaha Shrutayamiti. Eva Mugrashaya Pista Rishibir Namashayanahai Bhagavati Arpita Idatma Tanaha Shrutayatam Iti Eva Mugrastrava Ita Shivir Namashayanahai Bhagavati Arpita Dhyatma Tanaha Shrutayatim Idamugrashrava Prista Rishibir Namashayanai Bhagavati Arpita Dhyatma Tanaha Shrudayamiti. Ladies? Eva Mugrashrava Rishibir Namashayanai Bhagavati Arpita Dhyatma Tanaham Shrutayamiti. Evam, thus, Ugrashraiva Sutta Goswami, Prishta, being asked, Rishibhihi, by the sages, Naimisha Ayanahai, who were assembled in the forest of Naimisha. Bhagavati, unto the Lord. Arpita, dedicated. Adhyatmataha, his mind. Tan, to them. Aha, said. Shruyatam, just here. Iti, thus. Translation on being asked to speak by the great sage Naimisha by the great sages of Naimisharanya, the son of Ramharshan, Sutta Goswami, whose mind was absorbed in the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, said, "Please hear what I shall now speak." On being asked to speak, responsibly, on being asked to speak by the great sages of Naimisharanya, the son of Ramharshan, Sutta Goswami, whose mind was absorbed in the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, said, "Please hear what I shall now speak." I guess we'll go on to text 8. Sutta vacha Hari drishtra krota tano svamayaya Shamya Gorudaran Rasatalatat Lilam Rinyaksham Avigyaya Hatam Sanjita Harsha Munim Sanjaya Harsha Munim Miha Bharataha Sutta Uvacha, Sutta said, Harehe of the Lord, Dharita, who had assumed, Kroda of the boar, Tanu, Tanoho, body, Svamayaya, by his divine potency, Nishamya, having heard, Goho, of the earth, Udaranam, uplifting, Rasatalat, from the bottom of the ocean, Lilam, sport, Hiranyaksham, the demon Haranyaksha, Avagyanaya, Avagyaya, neglectfully, Hatam, killed, Sanjataha, Harshaha, Sanjata Harshaha, being overjoyed, Munim, to the sage Maitreya, Aha, said, Bharataha, Vidura. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sutta Goswami continued, Vidura, the descendant of Bharata, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord, who, having assumed by his own divine potency the form of a boar, had enacted the support of lifting the earth from the bottom of the ocean and indifferently killing the demon Hiranyaksha. Vidura then spoke to the sage as follows. Responsibly, Sutta Goswami continued, Vidura, the descendant of Bharata, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord, who, having assumed by his own divine potency the form of a boar, had enacted the sport of lifting the earth from the bottom of the ocean and indifferently killing the demon Hiranyaksha. Vidura then spoke to the sage as follows. Purport. It is stated here that the Lord assumed the form of a boar by his own potency. His form is not actually the form of a conditioned soul. A conditioned soul is forced to accept a particular type of body by the higher authority of material laws. But here it is clearly said that the Lord was not forced to accept the form of a boar by the external power. In Bhagavad Gita, the same fact is confirmed. When the Lord descends to the earth, he assumes a form by his own internal potency. The form of the Lord, therefore, can never consist of material energy. The Mayavada version, that when Brahman assumes a form, the Lord assumes a form, the form is accepted from Maya, is not acceptable. because although Maya is superior to the conditioned soul, she is not superior to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She is under the control of the Supreme Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Maya is under his superintendence. Maya cannot overcome the Lord. The Mayavada idea that the living entity is the supreme absolute truth but has become covered by Maya is invalid, because Maya cannot be so great that it can cover the Supreme. The covering capacity can be employed on the part and parcel of Brahman, not on the Supreme Brahman. The verse again, Sri Sutta Goswami continued, Vidura, the descendant of Bharata, was delighted to hear the story of the Lord, who, having assumed by his own potency the form of a boar, had enacted the sport of lifting the earth from the bottom of the ocean and indifferently killing the demon Hiranyaksha. Vidura then spoke to the sage as follows. Omagena timarandasya ganaranjana salakaya chaksun unmilitam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya manobistam stapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa karamayam darati svaparantikam bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jata Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha. It's instructive and interesting that the killing of the demon was as a kind of a sport for the Supreme Lord, and that he did this killing indifferently. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears on the surface of the earth to protect the devotees and to annihilate the demons. But his main purpose is to protect the devotees, and annihilation of the demons is done indifferently or haphazardly. Prabhupada has told us that we cannot neglect these instructions of Krishna. And sometimes he even quoted Chanakya Pandit. Not sometimes, but quite often. And interestingly enough, Chanakya was not a Vaishnava. Chanakya was a Shaivite. He had Shaivite markings on his forehead, horizontal markings on his forehead. Although he wasn't an official Vaishnava, Prabhupada very often quoted what he said. So this is reminiscent of the fact that one should accept wisdom, even from a non-devotee or even a fool. One can accept a wife from a non-aristocratic family, as was done in the past on the case of Satyavati, and one can accept gold from garbage, as is the case with Sanatana Goswami, having the touchstone, or a stone that could turn anything into gold, sitting in his garbage pile. And one can obtain nectar even from a poison pot. These are some of the instructions of Chanakya Pandit. Worldly instructions, but nonetheless memorable. In the Shrimad-Bhagavatam, Prabhupada quotes something from Rupa Goswami, not in Shrimad-Bhagavatam, but in the Nectar of Devotion. He says that one should always remember that one man's food is another man's poison. In other words, things are created in such a way that even demonic people have freedom. And as has been pointed out by Prabhupada, we have freedom all the time. And it's even said in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, Krishna has instructed Arjuna about the entire philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. But still he has to use his intelligence to decide what to do. There's an incident that involves Giriraj Swami, when he saw Prabhupada in June or July of 1977. I'm not exactly sure when it occurred, but he was summoned at 2 o'clock in the morning to Prabhupada's room. He was in Bombay, and he was not sure why he was summoned at that very unusual hour. And he said, Prabhupada, and he sat down before Prabhupada, and he asked him what he had wanted to say, and Prabhupada didn't say hardly anything. He just said, I wanted to see you before I depart. And then Giriraj said, well, I have something to say. I want to ask you that if we all follow the regulated principles and go to the whole morning program, will our movement go on successfully even after you have departed? And Prabhupada didn't answer immediately, but he eventually gave a nod to the fact that following the regulated principles and attending the whole morning program would be a mark of success for the Krishna conscious movement. And Giriraj was satisfied with that. And so as he turned and walked towards the door to leave, he heard Prabhupada say almost under his breath, and use your intelligence and organization. So I heard this from someone, so I asked Giriraj Swami personally if Prabhupada had said, use your intelligence and organization, and his answer was an affirmative yes. I think that Prabhupada knew that managing the temple in Bombay was a very difficult thing, which required a lot of intelligence and organization. Being in that part of the world and organizing a temple is not a simple or easy thing. So very often Prabhupada quoted Chanakya Pandit. Chanakya Pandit said many things. And one of the things he's said famously was that debt, fire, and disease should be dealt with instantly, immediately. A small debt of maybe 10 or 12 rupees is compounded by the moneylender, and that can become 100 or 1,000 rupees after a long period of time. And a little disease or a sort of infection can, if it's not dealt with immediately, can become a very, very large infection and can even be lethal. And one should accept gold from the garbage, as Sanatana Goswami had his touchstone situated in the garbage. But it was still, nonetheless, a touchstone, and it was accepted by someone who came to see him. And the fourth instruction is that one should accept a wife or a woman from even a Shudra family or a non-aristocratic family, as was done in the case of Satyavati. So these are some of the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, who at that time was not, never became actually a Vaishnava, but his instruction was very, very important. So these are some of the things that Prabhupada often quoted. And then when he was writing Nectar of Devotion, there was a section where Rupa Goswami said that one should not be neglectful of ordinary things. This was originally written by Sanatana Goswami, but then it was restated by Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, that one should not ignore or neglect ordinary things. Ordinary things are things like paying taxes, looking after one's health, and doing raising children, a lot of ordinary, seemingly ordinary things, that they should not be neglected. And this was, in a way, it was personified by Raghunath Goswami when people in the government, it was then ruled by the Patan government, came to arrest his father and uncle, Hiranya Majumdar, and the uncle, for doing some minor offense, for keeping some of the money that was the tax collection that was supposed to go to the Nawab. But somehow or other, Hiranya and Govardhan Majumdar had heard about this arrest, and they fled before the government officers arrived. And when they arrived, only Raghunath was there, and he was a young man, not even a teenager. So in order to fulfill their mission, they arrested him. They didn't know what else to do. He was the only one at home. And then after some discussion, they let him go. They were just amazed at how lovable a person he was and how he didn't do anything wrong. So not neglecting ordinary things is being sometimes it's necessary, although most of the time it's not a good idea, to become diplomatic, to charm the so-called enemies in such a way that they will jettison their inimical attitude. So this happened, and as a result, he wrote this thing that one should be not neglectful of ordinary things. So even though devotees are not doing so many ordinary things, they're doing many things that are supernatural, still ordinary things should not be neglected. When people first join Krishna consciousness, they're very attracted to the so-called ordinary things of good music, camaraderie, friendship, good food, and dancing and singing and good music. But after a while it becomes very difficult. So they know that that these ordinary things are just superficial. That after some time, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness becomes very complex. And we'll read later on in this verse how Lord Brahma, in order to satisfy the desires of Krishna, that he created the material world, excuse me, even allowed demonic people to have their sway, to do what they wanted to do. So he had to cast off these material bodies. And when he, as it is said in the Bhagavatam, when he casted off these material bodies, which were mental bodies, they weren't physical bodies, he was able to set aside the demonic mentality. And as it is described, the demons of the world had already been created. So they seized upon these seemingly ordinary, horrible things, and they were attracted by the evening, by the sunset, as a beautiful woman, because they're attracted to beautiful women. And so Lord Brahma was, although it was too late, but he had to cast off that material body. So the point is that Krishna is very respectful towards all people, even the demons. And Bhaktisiddhanta is known for saying that the demons are my best friends. So that even Krishna gives liberation to Putana, who came to kill him when he was a mere infant. So he gives liberation even to the demonic people. And that is an extreme case, but that actually happened. So I'll stop at that point and ask if there's any comments or questions on any of this or anything. Doesn't have to be about these verses, it can be about anything. Yes?
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I'm wondering, many times our Srila Prabhupada, he quotes Chanakya Pandit, and we hear Chanakya Pandit very often in purports and things, but I'm wondering, like, why Prabhupada puts so much emphasis on Chanakya Pandit, especially if he's not a Vaishnava?
Well, Chanakya Pandit was a very wise person, and we might say that he talked about ordinary things. But as Rupa Goswami said in Rector of Devotion, quoting Jiva Goswami, we should not be neglectful of ordinary things. So it may be an ordinary thing to check out an infection in its early stages. It may be an ordinary thing to not go into debt. It may not be an ordinary thing to accept a beautiful wife, even from a Sudra community. It may not be a very pleasant thing to accept a touchstone if it's located in the garbage. But nonetheless, Prabhupada remembered all these things. And one thing that calls this into question about accepting wisdom even from a person who is not wise, or is even, it can be said that wisdom can be accepted even from a fool, was that one day it so happened that Brahmananda was trying to cure Prabhupada. He had come back from the hospital from having had a stroke, but it was very difficult to find a clinic that was open because it was a holiday. It was a holiday weekend. So finally, the late Brahmananda contacted a doctor, and he was either drunk, disheveled, or weazened or old, or something about him that didn't look quite right. He had baggy pants, a baggy shirt, and his hair was all messed up. But he had diagnosed Prabhupada. He was the doctor, and he had diagnosed Prabhupada. And then the late Brahmananda had a conference with him afterwards in another room away from Prabhupada. And he asked him, he said, "So, what is your diagnosis?" And he said, "My diagnosis is the old man prays too much." And he said he should get out, get some fresh air, go for a walk. that's what he has to do. And unbeknownst to the late Brahmananda, Prabhupada overheard this conversation. And when Brahmananda came back into Prabhupada's presence, he was told that that man, although he looked kind of strange, he said some very wise things. And that was the beginning of Prabhupada's morning walks, when he delved very deeply into the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and exhibited a lot of what Allen Ginsberg, the poet, called Hindu granny wisdom. And even when they were in a snowbound area in the Alps in Switzerland, Prabhupada was walking up and down the hotel corridor because the snow drifts had become 1 or 2 meters deep outside. It was very high up in the mountains. But he religiously followed those morning walks every single day. I was on one of those morning walks in England, and he walked so fast that I almost had to run to keep up with him. So the idea is that you can accept wisdom even from a person who appears to be uneducated or foolish. That's one of Chanakya Pandit's bits of niti wisdom. Prabhupada called it niti, meaning logic, wisdom. So, wisdom can come from any place. And in different places, Prabhupada said we have to study even nature. We can learn from the birds, we can learn from the insects, we can learn from the trees. Just if we look at the tree that is very erect during the cold season, it's a very impersonal and hard-hearted. Whereas a tree, if it's slumped over and it has the posture of a person bowing down and being submissive to higher authority. So whether it's a tree or an animal, and he said we have a lot to learn from a dog. A dog is faithful even up to the point of its master pointing a gun and shooting him dead. The dog doesn't hesitate to be, his faith is never broken. So whether it's a dog or a tree or a bird, there's a lot to learn. Yes?
Krishna comes to protect devotees and annihilate demons. So from our perspective, how do we apply discrimination? Because we hear that everyone's a devotee, but we still have to discriminate. So what's the best way to apply that? And
well, it's important to discriminate, but at the same time, since it's been told to us, or it's been written by Prabhupada, that everyone is actually Krishna conscious. He or she is just temporarily forgetful. So that's a higher vision of looking at the world. And in practice, Prabhupada was very friendly to everyone, even those who exhibited inimical characteristics. So we do have to distinguish, that's important. There are some people, and as it is said in Bhagavatam, one man's food is another man's poison. No two people are alike. But if we maintain a friendly attitude, even towards, everyone who distributes books knows this, even towards people who are seemingly lost to this world, if we have a favorable attitude, even those people can sometimes take books and give donations. So they can, temporarily, they can be remembering Krishna, or they can become devotionally minded. I don't know if that helps, but that's some of the, yes? This gentleman has to comment further. Go ahead, ask further.
I was thinking I have a fear, like if I put myself out there so much for someone, they may hurt me or exploit me in some way. So I was thinking how to protect oneself.
So that is a very wise position to take, that if we're friendly to everyone, we run the serious risk of being beaten or hurt by that person who we were friendly to because they weren't friendly to us. So that is a risk that we take. But we're willing to take the risk of even day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, trying to distribute books even to unfriendly people because Prabhupada wanted it done, even though it's very risky business. Sometimes he said that preaching is a thankless task, and in a way it is. But even if out of 200 or 300 people every day, if one person takes a book, then I'm satisfied.
And is there a few key ways or a key way to make a devotee?
Is there a key way to make a devotee? I don't know. If there were, I would do it.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
My question is because I've had a few friends and people who've lost faith in Krishna consciousness recently due to things happening in ISKCON or with their spiritual masters or this and that. How can I help them, or what could I say to them that would help them keep their faith in Krishna regardless of what's going on around them?
Well, the first thing to say is that nobody is perfect. And Prabhupada has often said, to err is human. And he has written this, to err is human maxim. It was written originally by Alexander Pope. To err is human, to forgive is divine. That's the whole maxim. And in relation to this, he quotes that incident of the sparrow trying to retrieve its eggs from an ocean that had stolen them from her. And she was very determined to get the eggs back. And she was so determined that her sister bird, the eagle Garuda, the carrier of Vishnu, told the ocean, you have to give these eggs back or I'm going to dry you up. So the ocean became very fearful and gave her eggs back. So during that incident that Prabhupada narrates, he says, to err is human. I don't think the error was on the part of the ocean. Maybe it was, but she didn't want to give the eggs back. But he does quote that several times, not just in that one place, but to err is human. And he mentioned that even Mahatma Gandhi, who was a very famous politician, I think you all know Mahatma Gandhi, and Prabhupada was a great follower of Mahatma Gandhi, but he was warned that he was going to be assassinated if he went to the particular meeting where he was assassinated and died. And he said that even a great person, they all make mistakes. And later in life, even though in the past he mentioned that he was a devout follower of Gandhi, he said that even he made mistakes. And they all made mistakes. Kennedy, Hitler, all those people, Napoleon, they were so great, but they made many mistakes. And the mistake that Bharat Maharaj made, even though he was a very, very highly elevated person in protecting a small fawn, was a mistake. And as a result, he had to take birth as a deer. Of course, he was unusual because he remembered his life as a deer and he became Jad Bharat. We know the whole story. And he spoke very deep philosophy to King Rahugana, very, very deep. So the first thing is to say that maybe bad things happen to good people or good things happen to bad people. But nevertheless, we have to persevere because there's no such thing as perfection in this material world. And that we just do our best. That's what I would say anyway. Hare Krishna. Anything else? I think Vashu Shrestha had a comment or a question, but maybe it's too late. There it is.
Stand here.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just asking a question here because talking about Srila Prabhupada, how he liked to walk in all these different places. Like when he was in Australia, he loved to walk in the botanical gardens. Like he wanted to walk in the best parks. So just ask you this question, is that the most famous parks in the world literally are Central Park in New York and the Hyde Park in London. So I was just wondering if you had any experiences of going on a morning walk with Prabhupada in some of those parks.
No. In London, he walked in a sort of very verdant area nearby the temple in Bhaktivedanta. And that's where I had to run to catch up with him. But as far as walks in Central Park and what was the other place you mentioned? Hyde Park. I didn't even know if Prabhupada even walked in those places. But if he did, I wasn't there. Okay, any others? If there's nothing else, I think we'll stop. Hare Krishna.